welcome everyone to the inaugural Live at Bakehouse Studios. This is a project that there's a long kind of story behind this. Jim and I have been talking about this for a very long time, and it went from a bit of an idea Jim had to this, what you see now. And the last week has basically been obviously centered around JR and his band, but also this first pilot episode of Live at Bakehouse Studios. So absolutely thrilled to be here. Absolutely thrilled to have the J.R. Robinson Band, which we'll introduce in a moment here at Bakehouse Studios. Before we jump in, I want to briefly thank presenting partner OBSBOT. They are the cameras that you see in the Bakehouse live feed. Look at that. Big old, yeah. So every camera that you see in this feed right now is an OBSBOT camera. So you can go and check them out and look at what they have to offer. So thanks to OBSBOT cameras. Thank you to Slingerland Drums, to Lawton Audio, to Solid State Logic, Istanbul Mehmet Cymbals, and Innovative Percussion, who are all episode partners with us today. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to the J.R. Robinson Band. They're going to play a tune for us, and then we'll have a chat afterwards about it, and I'll introduce them all, and we can get into the discussion. Take it away, fellas. Yeah. Amazing. Wow. The J.R. Robinson Band, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
McJim says clapping sound in all caps in the chat.
If I can get his booty to move, this is good.
Yeah. Oh man, that was fantastic. People are in the chat asking questions already. This is fantastic. But before we get to answering any of the questions, really quick, welcome again to Live at Bakehouse Studios. My name is Brendan Lyons. I'm from Sessionwire, which you are now in. You are in the studio right now with the J.R. Robinson Band and Bakehouse Studios out of Virginia Beach. Very cool. Guys, welcome. Obviously, I'll give a proper introduction for everybody really quick. Starting with you, JR. Everybody knows who J.R. Robinson is, most recorded drummer in history. Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, Shaka Khan, Steve Winwood, Daft Punk, Whitney Houston. I mean, you just name an artist and JR's played with them, basically. There's 500 million copies sold worldwide, 30 number one hit songs, over 100 Grammy Award winning songs he's played on. And also, have to plug it, he's got a book called King of the Groove. You can go get it on his website. I got mine. It's signed and everything. So, yeah, go find the book. Welcome, JR.
Thank you, man. It's my honor to be here at Bakehouse. And with all this just great support, these great companies, the camaraderie ship that we're dealing with, and of course, Mitch and Myles. And the mystery bass player is Keith Nelson, who is in Las Vegas right now.
Awesome. And we did have somebody ask about the bass line and if it was pre-recorded, which we'll get to because we have to talk about what you guys have been doing all week. This isn't just a today thing. So we'll get to that. We'll jump over to the young fella, Myles Jasnowski on guitar. If you haven't heard of Myles before, he's, just talk about an up and comer. How old are you now, Myles?
I just turned 33.
Okay. So. Yeah, but you're self-taught since 13?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, pretty much. I started playing guitar right around the time that YouTube was really popping off, so learned a lot from watching, analyzing my heroes, on the screen and using my ear to pick out what they were playing, and so that's really, really helped develop my playing in a significant way. But
amazing. And, if you haven't heard of Myles before, you can go check him out on Instagram. Go check them out on Instagram. That's kind of where you have your platform at the moment, right?
Yeah, Instagram. Sometimes I post longer, solos and stuff on YouTube, but Instagram, I stay active over there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. And we'll skip over to Mitch Towne, everyone.
Should I look here?
You can look there. Yeah.
Hi.
With an E. Mitch made
Towne with an E, that's right.
Made sure that I pronounce it correctly, and it's pronounced Town, not Town. So, welcome, Mitch. Buddy Myles, Aloe Black, Eric Gales.
You change it to
quite a list of credits as well. I'm just going to mute the control room here for a second while we're chatting. And also, I read that you own 8 Hammond organs.
Yeah, it's it's just like they're like guitars. They all play different, except I can't hang them on the wall. I have to find places for them, so I have Hammond organs stashed all over the Midwest in various studios and rehearsal spots and clubs, and a couple in my home and a couple in storage units. I'm a little bit of a purist.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What's your favorite Hammond model?
Everybody wants. I'm going to tell you a secret here. Everybody wants the B3, and the B3s are what people pay the most money for. But there's an old saying, the best B3s are A100s. They're the same organ, just in a different cabinet. This organ right here is an A105. And the secret is they sold those to people in their homes. So if you're looking for the real Hammond organ sound, you can probably find someone who's got an A100 that their grandma bought that they'll pay you to haul away. And it's the exact same thing as a B3.
That's really good to know.
Between us. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody out there, just keep that between us.
Us and, that's a secret. We'll bleep that out in the afterwards on the YouTube. We'll just, that whole section will be beep. So tell me, you guys, and this might be a JR question. It might be like all of you guys, feel free to just chime in, but how did this band come together?
I think Mitchell should set this up, and then I'll take it over from there.
I went to a David Foster show in Omaha, probably around 2018. And if you've ever been to a David Foster show, you know that David Foster hires some of the best musicians to play with him. And so I went not knowing what to expect from a David Foster show. And I was sitting there with a friend of mine, and I was like, hey, that's Nathan East on bass. Holy crap, that's J.R. Robinson on drums. It's like we were seeing music royalty. So at the end of the night, I was hanging around by the stage, and J.R. was over there just taking the cymbals off of his drum kit. And I knew that he was from Iowa, and I'm from Iowa. So I walked over and I said, J.R. Robinson. And he looks at me and he's like, you know who I am? I said, of course I know who you are. You're J.R. Robinson, because I know the studio musicians that played on all of these records. That's the stuff that I grew up listening to. And now I'm getting some feedback here in my ears. There we go. So I know that, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, they didn't make those records by themselves. It's guys like J.R. Robinson. It's guys like Steve Lukather. It's these session musicians that made this stuff happen. So guys like J.R. were superheroes to me. So I got to meet him. We talked for 5 minutes. He's super nice. You'll find out how gregarious and warm he is. And he gave me his business card. Now, the only reason he would have done that was to be nice. I mean, there's no reason. He didn't know me. He didn't know if I could play. He just gave me his business card just to be a nice guy. So I used it as a bookmark for like the next couple of years.
Thanks.
Well, what was I going to do? Call you for a session? It's like, why am I ever going to call J.R. Robinson for a session? I could afford him. So fast forward to COVID, and the world shuts down, and everything is, no one's got a gig, right? So midway through about September of 2020, I'm watching Netflix. I watched the Quincy Jones documentary. There's J.R. Robinson, of course, because he was Quincy's guy. And I was like, oh, hey, it's J.R. Robinson. I've got his business card. How cool. Couple weeks later, I watched the David Foster documentary on Netflix. Once again, there's J.R. And it just sparked this idea in my head that the world was going to open up again at some point. And I had a really good connection with a really nice jazz club in Omaha. And I thought, well, if J.R. Robinson is from Creston, Iowa, which is about an hour and a half from Omaha, maybe he's still got family there. Maybe he comes back through once in a while. I wonder if I could, wonder if he'd ever want to come through and do a show. And I thought, you got to make your own breaks sometimes. So I took his card and I sent him a text, or I sent him an email, and I said, hey, you don't remember meeting me, but believe it or not, I can put together a crack band in Omaha, Nebraska, and we can play all of your hits. And I'd love to do a tribute to J.R. Robinson featuring J.R. Robinson. And when he finally got back to me, he sent me the shortest text, and he said, I love this idea. We have to wait for a vaccine. Text me in 4 months. And I was like, you got it. And 4 months later, at the start of 2021, we started putting this whole thing together. I told him I had a singer who could sing Whitney and Shaka, which was the part he didn't believe. But we did get Allison Nash, and she knocked it out of the park. But I put together a great band that just happened to feature Myles Jasnowski on guitar.
A younger Myles
Jasnowski on guitar. And that's how our relationship started. JR and I started a band that toured the United States and toured Japan. And then in the last few months, we put together this new trio, and I said, we got to use Myles. We got to bring in Myles. And so that's how this trio, that's the long version of how this trio came to be right here at Bakehouse in Virginia Beach.
Right.
Amazing. JR?
I'm glad you left out all the dirt.
There's no dirt.
Well, and it was like, okay, yeah. And the first thing was, hey, would you ever consider playing a trio? Doing a trio. I go, man, in Boston, when I was back at Berkeley, I was always doing organ trios and piano trios. So I go, okay, man, let's do this. So, that's kind of how, he kind of lured me in the correct way. It was great. And I'm always open to hip musical ideas, things that are going to stretch my limits and my old band from the old days was Rufus and Shaka Khan, and we disbanded. So there was always this empty void, in my heart about, it's like, what am I missing? There's something there. So as that evolved, and then the last trio, now this has turned into a quartet. So we've been co-writing and writing, and we'll set up what we're actually doing. Let's answer the bass question first.
Please.
We also did David Foster's cruise last, what was that, January?
Mm-hmm.
And
which is how we met everybody here at Bakehouse Studios.
And we were headlining on the cruise, even though I was doing all this other stuff too. And they were pillaging Myles. I mean, oh my God, check out this car. Myles had to play with everybody on the boat. So I go, well, enjoy. So now we're going to do the next cruise, you guys. The next David Foster cruise is next January. But I've added our bass player, Keith Nelson. That's with David. When you guys hear bass on these two tracks that you're going to hear today, we had him play bass on a Pro Tools track that I did because he was unavailable to be here in real time. So that's what we've been doing. And basically, we played live to Keith Nelson. That was part of the tracks that we've all put together. So,
amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we are at this point.
Amazing. So, just to kind of update everybody in the chat, everybody watching, you guys haven't just been there today. You've been there since Monday,
right?
I believe,
yeah,
and started recording on Tuesday. And you're recording a bunch of new material at Bakehouse.
That is correct. I'm doing a record, and I've done 2 records before in my career. Both I always thought were just useless, funky jazz calling cards. Oh, here I got a record. Here I got a record.
That business card says actually useless, funky jazz. That's what my business card says. That Mitch Towne, useless, funky jazz.
Do I have to pay you a royalty? All right, so that's true. So, but at this point in my career, and now I've got an agent, who is the great Ed Keene out of Boston, and we have this vision of this J.R. Robinson band is going to be, per Mitch's idea of title, my legacy album. And even though I'm going to do more albums, because Herbie's always been my idol. The guy can do anything and keeps doing anything. But what this record is, it's got all our stuff. It's got our funk. It's got our hip jazz. I've even done a Dave Grusin. I can't really describe it other than it was us playing The Firm, the theme. But I've also got Narda Michael Walden producing a track, and it's a #1 record. So we've got a whole bunch of great things going on. Prepping for a future documentary that's going to happen.
Nice, amazing. So Myles, how do you feel? You're a young cat. This is maybe putting you on the spot a little bit. Young cat playing with a couple of very seasoned veterans.
Yeah.
What's well, I said seasoned.
Yeah, you said very.
No, I'm the very.
He's the very.
You're the
yeah,
seasoned.
I'm the seasoned. Okay, good. Fair enough.
I'm lightly seasoned.
Yeah, you're kind of getting there. No, I just, what's the experience been like? Getting dragged into this and.
Yeah, well, it's been amazing, and I have to try not to think about JR's legacy too much. Playing, knowing everybody that he's played with, and even this morning we were getting coffee, and this song "Yamo Be There" came popped up, and he says, "Oh, I played on that." That'll happen. At least once a day, just a random song. Oh yeah, no, I played on that. So that's really cool, and I'm just thankful that that Mitch asked me to be a part of this, and that JR has, been so kind and really supportive. And,
you wait till the road.
So yeah, it's been really fun, and being in the studio is definitely, because we haven't done that yet, really. We've remotely sent stuff back and forth, but the creative energy takes on a different, much more intense level when you can actually be together and everyone's ideas can be front and center, and you can actually, you can jump on the talk back button right away and be like, no, let's do this instead. So,
the studio can be somewhat fraught with peril, and, someone like JR has done literally thousands of sessions. And, when I first started playing with him, I didn't have as much studio experience. And I said, JR, I said, do you ever get in the studio and kind of get what they call red light fever, where, the red light goes on and you're like, oh, and he goes, no. I'm like, great advice, JR. Thanks, buddy. Good talk.
What is it? Red light syndrome. RLS.
RLS?
Yeah, it's an RLS disease.
Yeah. He said no. I'm like, well, that's very helpful. Thanks.
Well, excuse me, and going back to Myles's thing, ever since I was a little boy in Iowa, I always had guitar trios. Nobody had a damn Hammond in Southwest Iowa.
They'd have to haul it around.
I don't know why. I think it was some old dude that had one. But, I was like playing in this high school rock band when I was 12, but I always had this Cream band, and it was trio band and Clapton based. And so, by the advent of, Mitch and I aligned earlier, the advent of bringing Myles in was great because he sings. A lot of people don't know that. And he's got his own style, which is just brilliant. So, this is some beautiful stuff. And I want to shout out to Jim Paracco, because the Bakehouse Studio and the entire crew here and Steve and John and
Cassie.
Yeah, Kathy. It's an amazing opportunity for us, which we will be back, and I'm sure some of our compadres will come back here, to not have any pressure and be able to walk in to a studio and do what we want, but yet do what we need to do. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And just Jim, really quick, everybody, Jim Paracco, owner of Bakehouse Studios. Yes. Clapping noises. This is amazing. Jim, just, really quickly, the story of Bakehouse and, what the last 5 days have been like. This is a different project than what you've typically done at Bakehouse. So how did you come about owning Bakehouse? What's your vision for it, and why is this particular session so special?
Well, my wife and I purchased this back in 2024, and we already had 2 running studios, but they were smaller studios. But this studio's got quite a storied background. It was built by Timbaland for his personal studio, and it was designed and built by John Storick. And anybody who knows John Storick is, arguably the best designer acoustician in the world, and when I walked in here, it was just, my heart melted, it was like one of those situations. So we purchased it because my wife's a singer and I'm an arranger, producer, and a musician, and thought this would be a great sandbox for us to play in and invite all our friends. So it started off as just, and it still is pretty much a private studio. It started off as a studio where we would just invite friends and invite people to come in. And the whole thing for me the vision was, can we get back to that place where, as musicians, we come to a garage and everybody brings their instruments, and then you just go crazy playing because you're a bunch of 12, 13, 14-year-olds who really don't know what you're doing, but this passion of music just comes out of you. And I said, can we recreate something like that, but, at a much different level? And we did. For the first couple of years, we would just invite friends who are very, very good musicians and people we haven't seen in 30, 40 years, and invited them in, and they'd fly in and we'd just track and just have a great time. And my wife and I went on the David Foster cruise back in February, and I met Nathan in Norway East, met JR. And, those 2 guys are probably like, if I were to say, are there any heroes in your life, it would be those guys. And it's not so much about just even like their accolades. It's really who they are as people who take their instruments and they become, it's like I was saying earlier, they're like mind, body, and soul in music. You know, it's like it's the whole enchilada. And JR, this has been really fun the last 3 days, because just from the first downbeat of the first song, The Firm, that we did, I felt it instantly. Like, I get it. You know, it's like, it's just a gift. And Mitch and Myles to have that gift. And I just love the way JR, in a sense, is kind of mentoring these guys into this space, you know, and I just wanted to create a space where there's freedom. And there's freedom to be passionate about your music. There's freedom to take your God-given gifts and just, like in this situation, let's just showcase it to the world without the pressure of the industry and the business and all that crazy stuff that tends to just, you know, ties people, you know, handcuffs people and their talent. So it's, you know, it's kind of an idealistic endeavor, but we'll see what happens. And of course, you and I talk a lot, right? And say, hey, look at these opportunities now with new technology and everything else, because we've been using Sessionwire for 4 years, and I've had sessions where directors are in London and LA, and we're cutting tracks here for them, and we're mixing movies, and we're doing those kind of things all through Sessionwire. So it's been great.
Oh, amazing. And you know, we've got questions coming in about some technical things here, which I'll get to in a second. I want to circle back really quick while we're kind of on the topic of, you know, the music and musicians. And we were, you know, talking a little bit about red light syndrome, and something that I have been talking to friends about and being in the studio is, and JR, you will be the king of this, but when you're in the studio playing drums for everybody, how easy is it to overthink what you're playing? Like, hey, I just played this on the last session. I can't do this now.
Wow. Wow. That's a very interesting question. That takes me back. I was doing a Celine Dion record called If You Ask Me To. Da, 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 and it was like huge record. A week and a half later, I get a call from Patti LaBelle. And so I've been recording with Patti many times, and Patti goes, man, I really love this Celine Dion tune. Can you come in and record for it? And I go, sure. So I come in 2 weeks later, it's the exact same arrangement, down a whole step. And I recut the number one record with Patti LaBelle, the same exact song, down a whole step. You know, I mean, Celine was great, but Patti just kicked its butt. So, you know, knowing how comfortable it was. So there were times, like during the earlier Rufus days when I would tour, you know, the drum parts were incredibly intense. And I would go in my own limo to the Houston Astrodome and, you know, work out, play for an hour, warm up. And finally, you know, we go out and we go out on stage and we go 1, 2. Except then I would be stiffen up and feel like such a douche. I warmed up for an hour and I felt awful. So I kind of started using mental warming up exercises. So preparing yourself mentally, and then once you get behind your instrument, you just pray to God and be natural and just let things come out. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. You know, in the earlier certain records, if I was, you know, I'm reading really a lot of stuff. If I make a mistake, sometimes on, you know, run through 1 or 2, I would just plow through it, man. Oh, there's some really hot shot rhythm. I would just plow through it, and then I go, okay, I got to fix that. So, you know, the next take, and so, I mean, I don't know if I answered that question, but it does come from experience, and in my case, playing with as many great players as possible, especially bass players.
Can I ask a follow-up to that to him?
Yeah.
So based on when you were doing a lot of your work, was the main focus, we got to get the drum take and then everything else can get layered on later? Was the pressure on you more than anybody else?
It turned into that as the 80s started exploding. But in reality, coming into out of the 70s when I broke in, it was still cats all in a room cutting. We didn't have advanced cue systems like this. A lot of you guys that are listening, I mean, we have a very advanced cue system. So we can, I can dial in Poughkeepsie in here on a map going through Schenectady. And it's pretty hip. But in those days, you had an engineer like Jim, just dialing us a mix. You may not hear your stuff. It doesn't matter. Here we go. And as that then became, as drums changed from the 70s, like America, early Eagles, all that kind of Americana music. We got into the 80s. It became very bass drum oriented, very funky, very dance oriented. Drums started going up in levels. So yes, there were all these records that I basically then never saw anybody.
Yeah.
And I would come in, and they still want me to do that, but there's nothing like camaraderie. I can hear, you can hear.
You have people to react to.
And boy, I want to take this on the road. Can we do this? We get a friggin' tour bus and let's go.
That's awesome. We're gonna circle back to some questions. There's some technical questions going on in the chat. Okay, so we can dive into that. But I do want to circle back to some of what we were just talking about. So, and Jim, I'll unmute you because this is largely going to be you and I answering these questions. This is to do with how Live at Bakehouse basically kind of came about. So apologies, JR and the guys, as we dig into this a little bit, because it is quite interesting. So Jim and I have been talking for years. He's, Bakehouse Studios. They've been Sessionwire users for a long time. And we met at NAMM, and Jim had an idea. And that idea quickly spawned into dragging a bunch of partners into putting this on and turning it into a persistent series online, similar to Live at Daryl's House. So you can expect more of these types of things down the road. One of the partners is OBSBOT, and people are asking about OBSBOT cameras. How many cameras are there? What are you using to switch the cameras? So, Jim, do you want to explain what your studio went through to get set up for this?
Yeah, you and I have been talking, we were talking about, today, big studios, how do they survive? How can they survive, right? And I've always been a new technology guy, and I just thought, let's capitalize on the virtual side of things. So we had a project here where it was for a movie. It was for Pharrell, and so we started. Harvey Mason Jr. Came in and produced it, and then we had to do some overdubs. And we're trying to figure out, okay, well, he wanted to stay in LA, so we started using. At that point, it was Zoom. Sorry, Brendan, but we didn't brought in Sessionwire after that.
It's okay.
I just had this crazy idea. I said, the problem with a lot of artists now and everything, it's just time, right? The time element. So with technology like Sessionwire, where you can do just sessions anywhere in the world, we just started embracing that. Well, next step was when you and I started talking. It's just what if we just didn't do audio, but what if we did video too? What if we captured videos and then started exchanging performances or stuff like that? Just kind of, blue ocean, dreaming big and stuff. And then obviously we're on blue ocean. I meet JR and he says, yeah, I'd like to come and check out your studio. And that's when you and I talked, Brandon, and said, what does this look like? And then you introduced me to OBSBOT at NAMM, and the guys are great. They're just open. They've been doing a lot of live streaming, but not necessarily in the music space. In fact, I think they were just starting there at NAMM to just kind of get into that. And then we discussed this. I said, well, what about a studio situation where you can broadcast live music being recorded? What does that feel like? So we spoke, and it was through that relationship that you introduced me to that they sent me 14 cameras of the, 8 tail 2s and 4 of the tail airs and everything else. And fortunately for me, one of my business partners in one of my businesses is a geek who loves to run cable and loves to he's a diagnostician. He loves to fix stuff. He's got a Lexicon, right now, that 960 that he's fixing for me. But he's also, this is a little bit under his pay grade, but he loves music. And Steve, who's sitting right back there, he ran 29 Cat 6 cables throughout the studio. So what you see is the result. You're seeing, I think we got, I don't know how many cameras we have online right now, John, but I know at least 10. And we're putting this thing through the test. This is the first time, I think, to try to do something like this. But I wanted something that, what would it be like if we set up kind of like an Austin City Limits kind of thing, but kind of overload the cameras a little bit more, and then take ISOs of each camera, and then later on maybe cut a show out of it, and here we are. So that's what's happened. And then when that happened, obviously, Mark's my friend who is running A1 over there. Again, a little bit under his pay grade, but he's here helping us out from SSL, mixing this, making sure our pattern's the same. And Mark and I have the same background. He's been working with ESPN for 15 years. I started as an A2 at ESPN in the 80s in horse racing. So, but he's, if you've ever watched any ESPN Sports and NBC at the highest level, Mark probably mixed it. So we've got a great guy sitting there running the audio and making sure everything's okay. And John back there behind him is my creative director, and he's also loves to mess around with gear and new technology. So he's sitting there looking at all those cameras on that screen. I mean, it's crazy. So anyway, I think I just love JR and his team because they're putting up with us trying to get this thing, figure out what are we doing here. I'm glad we got all our music done, recorded. We cut 6 songs in the past 4 days. And the stuff you're hearing now, we're actually just re-recording it, but we already got good takes. But I don't think there's a bad take from these guys. So it's just a different take.
Right. Exactly. Just as a housekeeping note here, JR and guys, I know you can't hear Jim's voice at the moment, but we'll get somebody to press the talkback mic in the control room. Is there a latch button on your talkback mic, Jim, on the console?
Yeah, they can hear.
Yeah. Can you hear us now, guys? Yeah. Sorry, that was a whole lot of probably silence for you guys, except for me agreeing.
The whole thing that studio work is 95% boredom, 5% sheer terror. So we were in the 95% part during that whole thing.
That's bullshit. He was playing scales. He was doing something.
Noodling, yeah. Well, that's what this whole Live at Bakehouse Studios project is all about. Is like this. This is like this is what a real session is supposed to kind of feel like. Like it is a lot of. There's some downtime. Stuff breaks inevitably. I mean, you guys have had issues with Leslie's and cables. Yeah, I mean, what? Yeah. So what? Mitch, maybe what happened this week.
Oh, well, when you play vintage gear, you deal with vintage gear problems. And this is a fantastic organ, and it's a killer Leslie. But I noticed after the first few takes, I was like, when I put it on fast, it didn't sound like that. It wasn't spinning fast enough. So it was spinning, but not fast enough. And that's a huge difference, man. When you go to do this kind of stuff, that's got to be going. And so I was like, hey, guys, this isn't going fast enough. And we tried some basic things, didn't work. So Steve, one of the great guys here at Bakehouse, who is not by trade a tech, he just starts rolls up his sleeves and starts getting in. It looks, okay, this is what we got, and just basically tore the top apart. And by the time we got here the next day, he's like, got it fixed. It's like, yeah, man, well done, And plus, they're so great here, they found another Leslie that's sitting out in the lobby just in case this one didn't work. So, but that's the kind of thing you deal with. You have to know how to, and I'm not great. I know how to do some things, but, sometimes it just takes a tech to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Myles?
I was going to say about the end, Leslie. So if you don't break this one on the next take and we don't get to use that one, then he did all that work for nothing. Okay.
Yeah, but you're going to have to lug it in.
I thought maybe you'd want to run through it.
Ooh, Peter Frampton.
Yeah, a little a la Clapton.
Hey, wait a minute. Can we do that?
Yeah, can we take 30?
Wait a minute. We could do that, couldn't we?
We
See,
could.
that's another problem you get in the studio is ideas like that. Like, hey, wait a minute, why don't we do that? And then it'll take like 5 hours to set it up. You play it a couple times. Oh, no, that's a stupid idea. Let's go back to something
Hey,
else.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. Maybe I could run my drums like one of the room channels through that Leslie. Yeah, I don't know. Things happen.
That's always. Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to do a quick shout out because, it's always a team and it's collaborative. It's always about people and relationships. And our tech, Mackenzie Wills, he decided, well, no, he didn't decide. He took a cruise and was in Italy when all this happened.
Right.
And he texts me from the boat and he says, hey, I'm here for you. I'll get another 147 to you as soon as possible. And it was like, wow, these are just great people, and
Jim, they had him FaceTime in. They had him looking at the Leslie from Italy on FaceTime. He's like, okay, pull that picture down. Okay, move that white thing up. It was just like, that's dedication.
Wow.
that's fun, right, Mitch?
And getting a tan.
Yeah. Yeah, eating the buffet. So
Yeah, both there.
Man. Well, just to circle back to the tech side of things, there's a few more things that I want to address, with some of our partners as well. So to answer a couple questions, the video controller being used is OBS. So if we go back to the B room shot, you'll see in the back John running OBS in the back corner there. That's where all the cameras are going. Like Jim mentioned, there are 29 cat lines run through the studio. So all of the cameras are connected by NDI to OBS in the back. And then Mark is sitting in front of a brand spanking new solid state Logic. I have to get the model. It's the Live L550 Plus. It's a live console. It's out on the road with Foo Fighters, Eagles, Backstreet Boys. There's one in Royal Albert Hall. Queens of the Stone Age has one. So what you're hearing through the HQ audio stream when the guys are playing is a little two mix coming off of that, along with the lav mics of the guys speaking. And so, huge thank you to SSL. Normally, there's an SSL AWS console in that room, and Jim and the crew yanked that out of there and put this one in just for this event. And if we look closely behind Jim, you'll see some things in the rack there that SSL also sent. We have a couple of, yes. Ta-da! A couple of 9000 super analog channel strips, a couple of Revival 4000 signature analog channel strips, and a Pure Drive Octo. So, yeah, JR has been drooling about that. Yeah. So nothing that you're hearing is going through the console that we will not name sitting in front of Jim. Fantastic console, but we're not going to talk about it. Everything is going through the SSL strips and the channels back there and a few other odds and ends. But huge thank you to Solid State Logic for the amazing support, and obviously Mark for being there, in person, handling the broadcast mix. World class. Sounds like TV mix. We had a slight argument about LUFS earlier and how loud things should be, but we'll circle back to that later, Mark. Couple other things to address here. Obviously, J.R. Robinson is an innovative percussion and Istanbul Mehmet artist, as well as a Slingerland drum artist. Yes, zoom in on all of the things. There's a wonderful, I think you're using it, a Radio King snare right now.
Do I have 30 seconds?
You do. You have tons of time.
Okay, so we'll stay here till November.
Great.
Okay. I'm very, very, very blessed, and I'll just do a little thing. Being a DW artist for all these years, we helped, through Don Lombardi and Chris Lombardi, bring back the original Niles, Illinois Slingerlands. And I kind of prepped that and pushed it about a year and a half ago. Now that we're sitting and looking at a beautiful 7-inch Slingerland Radio King snare drum. It's got its original head. I've got it pretty much cranked. So, and then with my Istanbul Mehmet cymbals, this is the J.R. Robinson line. And then we can talk about, of course, my own sticks, but we can talk about the Lawton mics in a second. But I'll just play a little bit so you guys can. So this snare drum pops hard. And
It really does.
And I've got news. The new JR Slingerland personal model will be coming out in about 12 months. And it is a beast. And it's going to be all done with steam bent wood like they used to do ships with. So it's just absolutely extraordinary stuff. So for all you drummers, we're under the Roland umbrella. So it's DW, Slingerland, and Latin Percussion. So and DWE is there also. So I'm very, very blessed. The Istanbul stuff. Everything is available at your local dealers.
So also Istanbul Mehmet over here too.
Yes.
We've got the logo plugged and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Tell me just a little bit about your tuning methodology as well. Like have you changed tunings between songs this week, or are you kind of pretty much keeping things the same?
Generally, on this week, we're doing things the same. When Jim and I started layering this from many months ago, I was trying, what kind of drums do you have here? We unfortunately were not able to get the new Slingerlands here. It's just not in time. So we're using a DW, a custom set, and this is a 22 deeper. I'm using smaller toms, 10, 12, 14, and 16, with Emperor codas on the top, and just a stock P3 on the bass drum. So I make sure that the bass drum still sounds big and fat, but has a good point. And on this particular set, I had the toms higher. So my point is, I like things that are melodic, that'll blend with Mitch and Myles, and they blend with the song that I'm playing. Normally, I don't have a snare drum this high. I mean, this is in Stuart Copeland world. But it's a 7-inch. I mean, if you need to go to the dentist, I can take care of that right now.
Oof. Yeah, that thing, it's still got the body, even though it's tuned up that high.
And I've taken the one I have at home and put like an Emperor X on it and stretched it and then put it, it's like really fat and gurgly. And it's just an incredible drum. So, it's per project. Like if we were going to do maybe a slow Seeger type 8th note ballad or a slow rock tune, I would take this, detune it, maybe put a thicker head on it, I don't know, and detune these toms. I think the bass drum is perfect the way it is.
Amazing. And just a follow-up question, and this is something that I argue with some producers about. The tuning of your drums being the same as, the scale or the key of the song that you're playing.
I mean, what's funny is that I've done so many thousands of sessions, and I'll come in and I don't know which drum set has been set up. I mean, I usually request it, but all of a sudden I'll hear, all right, Mitch, what note is that?
F sharp.
F sharp, or
G flat.
I go to the flat world. So I got, wow, the song happens to be in that key. Well, that's kind of cool. Let's play a song in that key, too.
Oh, don't stop that. That was great.
By the way, remember that, because this is the whole point about being in the studio is stuff comes out,
We got it. We got it recorded. It's good. That's fantastic. I just saw Rick.
Jim's got a comment, Brendan.
Oh, Jim's got a comment. Sorry, I'll unmute Jim. I have the power. Sorry, Jim. Yeah, go ahead.
That's no problem. I've got a quick story. JR doesn't know this. A friend of mine came in and drum checked for him. And we had to take him to the airport this morning. And he said, JR came in. We had two, and I don't know if we can mention this, but we had two Ludwigs, okay? Black Beauties. One was in the 80s and one was in the 90s. And JR comes in and starts tuning it, right? and he tunes the other one. And Dale took a meter to his tuner, and it was at 203 cycles, 203 hertz, right? The other one was at 204. He was off. I mean, he did it all by ear.
Wait a minute, I was off?
Dude, come on.
That's it. That's it.
No, but that's amazing. Think about how amazing that is. That kind of experience and how what it takes just to have those kind of ears. It's been a really neat experience to experience that kind of stuff. Because I love that stuff.
Hey man, I had an experience when we first started touring with the Streisand big orchestra, 65, 69. We had these original Future Sonic earphones. Mm-hmm. The other bye-bye. She blew out my right side twice. Whoa. Barbara singing, and I'm going, oh. Anyway, I don't know why I went there, but thanks.
There we are. We got a follow-up question. What are significant differences in how you tune your drums between live and studio, or are there any differences?
I get this asked hundreds of times, and I am one person, who I am. So if it doesn't work in the studio, it's not going to work live. So I will continue what I do in the studio and expect it to translate because of the drums and the cymbals and me and the engineer picking it up. Listen, all you have to do is put a mic on a drum and flat. You don't have to overthink it. You don't want to do anything in the pre-chain. Everything's in post, if anything. The old Al Schmidt concept was, put the overheads up and there's your drum sound. The rest of the stuff's layered in. That was a bit older school, but we're using these Lawton mics and they're fantastic. I mean, we just put it up flat, right, Jim? It's the same thing. Everything is, so I hear these guys go, well, if you're in a heavy rock metal group that everything's triggered, it doesn't matter anyway. They could be playing on Aunt Sally's shower curtain.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Al Schmidt, because there's a fantastic book by the Met Alliance that is all about recording drums, and it's Al Schmidt, it's Elliot Shiner, George Massenburg, Sylvia Massey, and I'm a big fan of all of them, particularly George, who the overheads are the entire picture of the drums and everything else kind of comes in from the bottom. Whereas these days it's kind of flipped a little bit with modern pop music.
Right.
It seems like everything is very close mic heavy. Right. But I'm curious, Lawton microphones are new to you this week.
Yes.
On a session. Obviously they're a partner. Huge thanks to Trent at Lawton for sending everything out for the session. Really quick, we'll go through. I'll just run through what's on the drums and what's on the other instruments. But I want to kind of get your impression of how they kind of are working for things. So we got a Lawton kick mic inside the kick drum. We've got a Lawton snare mic on the top of the snare. Yep. The tom mics are on all of the toms. You can see them there. We've got the LA220 V2s as overheads. And Jim, you'll have to correct me, but I think there's an Eden on the kick out, and then you've got a couple other mics floating around somewhere, I think, right?
Yeah, we just doubled the kick up. We've got the Eden FET on the front, and we've got the Loudon inside, but we also have JR's go-to, which is the 52 Shure. I'm running 3 kick mics, and we're not getting any phasing at all, which is pretty cool. And on the snare, we still have the good old 57 in there, and then I've got a 184 up on top, just in case JR does, rim shots. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the only thing. But most of what you're hearing tom-wise and overheads, I'm really impressed with the overheads. I got to tell you, I've been telling JR, this is great. But we are putting, if you look, there's 2 Coles that are kind of mid-room. And then we've got 2 87s far room. But we haven't really, JR's been mixing those 4 down and using mostly the overheads.
Right. I'll for the stuff that we're cutting this week, the rooms I'll address later. But getting it, what is the effect called in front?
The Eden? Is that the Eden?
Yeah. Hey, well, the first thing, we're noticing the overhead. We'll hit it in a second. But the Eden set is, I must have that. And it's I could easily immediately swap that into my studio at home. And the overheads are called 22.
The LA 220s.
Yeah, 220s. They so far are great. I mean, if I can I play?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna overplay or just hit shit. So you can hear all the beautiful Istanbul. This particular set of cymbals, my set, have a complete wider range and they're a little bit more rock. But the overheads are just fantastic. So I can't wait to implement this stuff.
Well, it's great. I just sent Trent a text, said, hey, live right now, come check it out. JR's talking about your stuff, So
once he comes on, let me start really getting into it.
We'll do it again. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do the whole thing again. No, but yeah, really big thanks to Lawton. I've been a fan of their stuff for a long time. They're doing really cool things, particularly with mics tailored to drums.
Yeah,
Yeah. So thanks again to those guys. So as you mentioned, not doing a whole lot on the way into Pro Tools. We're using Pro Tools today. So there's not a lot of EQ. There's not any compression, I believe, going into Pro Tools. Jim, do you want to kind of walk us through where just the SSL stuff, what's coming into the SSL gear that we have today?
Yeah, so we're running the snare into the SSL 9000. Got a kick going into one of the other ones. But I'm kind of doubling it up with an API because that's where my ears tend to go. Again, we'll have the choice. We're running, the overheads are running to the new 4000 series, which I think it's a sweet combination. And then the toms and the other snares are going to the Octo, which is, I think Mark told me, is part of the Origin preamps situation. So I think I'm right on that. But no EQ. Just on the kick, just a touch bit of lows, probably around 140, just kind of pumped a little bit. But I'm of the old school as well. If you can't catch it at the drum, you can't, why play around with it? So, and again, this whole thing for me, like just hearing JR hit those drums, so stinking consistent. I mean, it's like once it's set up, it's done,
Yeah,
right.
That's.
I got a lot to live up to.
Isn't that one of the reasons, though, JR, that some guys can do studio work, some can't, because they know how to hit the drums?
Yeah, they know how to pull the sound out of the drum. And just a 10-second story. In 1978, when I joined Rufus, Roy Hallett, the great engineer from Simon Garfunkel,
Bridge Over Troubled Waters. I was coming off a live band and playing like Billy Cobham and playing all this crap and just overplaying. And then I joined Rufus. We went into the studio and I started overloading all the microphones. Literally, I was just playing so damn hard and overloading it. And Roy takes me aside by myself and he goes, let me teach you something about this. This is this particular mic. This is a AKG 451. This is a 251. You can't play it that hard. You need to get the sound and pull it out of the drum. I go, oh, you mean like this? He goes, yeah, exactly. So play like that, but still with power. So that it was a huge education to me.
I think this kind of plays into a question that I'm going to pose to everybody as well. Not only in the studio, you have to be very cognizant of the sound that you're, putting out there for the microphones to capture. But this is for all three of you guys, how involved are you in the studio when it comes to mic choice, mic placement, like going into the control room and mixing things? It's basically helping sculpt your sound. How much of that do you leave up to the engineer and producer, and how much do you get in there?
Myles?
Yeah, well, with guitar, there's a classic mic setup of a ribbon microphone and a dynamic microphone. So that's what we're using on the cabinet, which is in another room just behind me here, so that we have separation, so there's no bleed. But Jim has a wonderful amp here at the studio, this 2-Rock. I wasn't going to travel with an amp, and obviously wanted to play through something. So lucky to play through this really nice amp. But yeah, I love the sound of a ribbon microphone on guitar. It's very warm and smooth and rolls off some of the top end that can be a little ice picky sometimes. And then also going through another line, capturing the direct signal just in case there's another amp, maybe if you want to reamp it later down the line. But that's kind of the go-to for me, even when I record at home, is with a ribbon and a dynamic. So I've been really happy this week.
And do you get in there and like place the microphones yourself?
Usually, I mean, the way that it was set up is my go-to, put the ribbon right on the center of the cone where it's the brightest, because the mic is a little mellower, and then the dynamic is maybe an inch next to that. So it's about an inch off center. And, you can blend those to taste too. If the song needs a little bit more brightness, then you bring up the dynamic in the mix, or vice versa.
Amazing. And Mitch, we'll go over to you, and we'll kind of come back to JR.
One of the things that I really hate the most about playing Hammond organ is recording one in the studio, because when I play the organ, the Leslie's always right behind me. And that is a very particular sound, right? So when you're recording with a band like this, the Leslie's usually isolated in a room and it's mic'd up. And there are classic miking techniques, but it always sounds different when all you can hear is the mic'd Leslie. There's something about microphones that bring out the really clicky nature of the Hammond organ Leslie combination. And so for me, it's not so much the setup of the mics. It's just pretty much a generally accepted way to do it. For me, where the real dialing in comes is what I'm hearing in my headphones, what the headphone mix is. So Jim and the crew have the Leslie mic'd in the other room in the classic fashion of, two on top, generally close mic'd, and then one on the bottom. And I don't care which mics. That's not my thing. But they also have two room mics in that room to capture the room. That sounds killer in there. In here, it's like creates this latency in my playing. And so after the first few takes, I was like, okay, take those room mics out of my earphones. And that really helped tighten up the sound. So there really is something about what you're hearing in your cans as opposed to what that Leslie really feels like in the room. So, like if I turn and play the piano here, that's great because the piano's in the room with me. I mean, yeah, I've got it in my phones, but I can also feel that presence and feel that, I can take an earphone off. Here, it's like I'm really at the mercy of what is in my cans.
We're going to circle back to that in a second.
Let me give you another trick. Here's another Hammond organ trick. We also have a direct box attached to the back of the organ that is sending a pure unlesleyed pure feed from the organ preamp. So what you could do with that, if we were doing a jazz organ record, which we're not really here, but if I was playing a lot of left-hand bass, you can take that direct signal, pump the bass, dial out the highs, and you have more bass that you can dial in and out in addition to what you're getting off the woofer of the Leslie. So that's an old Rudy Van Gelder trick from Blue Note days. That's how Rudy did the C3. All those Jimmy Smith records have that sound on them. That's how you can really get that classic jazz organ sound. It adds a little more click to the mix, but that, it's just there's just a little tip. You can get one of these direct boxes and take it right off the preamp.
I love it. There's all the recording tricks and secrets. You can send a check mail order to Mitch Towne. Just for all the secrets.
I'll forward them on to the people that told me.
Yes, fair enough. Go to JR. JR, how hands-on are you with what's being recorded from where you're
You kind of blipped out there for a second.
Did I blip out?
Now you're good. Now you're good. Now you're
I
good.
swore for a second there. I just had to swear in it.
Well, I'm glad you are.
How hands-on are you with what's being recorded? Your drum sound, mic placement.
I don't know, Jim. Was I beating Jim up pretty hard? Yeah, I'm. I guess I'm a creature of habit that's been developing since a friend of mine that's online now, my first engineer, Doug Getchall, from Berkeley in '73, taught me about what a click track was and just how I developed recording back at Berkeley. And I'm talking about on a Scully 8-track. So I talk about all sorts of stuff, and in King of the Groove in the book, well, working with the great Bruce Swedien, when we're cutting the dude, he comes out to me and he goes, "Okay, here's what I want you to do." There were several things, first of all, but he goes, "I want you to play your kick drum at pianissimo." And I'm thinking, okay, but I want you to play your snare drum at mezzo forte forte. And I go, oh boy. Okay. So, and the song's up. I'm trying to just go, but I go, oh boy. So yeah, I had to learn how to use four-way coordination, like we've all learned, hopefully, and to play it different. And I know what he was doing. In those days, he was taking a Sennheiser 421 and cranking the living shit out of it. So he got the sound that I was like, if you just put it up and a rock drummer hit it, it would sound almost choked. But by him putting it up like that, I could hear it breathing. And so I was like, oh God, I had to be so accurate on all those records. But then he wanted the snare to be not rim-shotted, but hit it in the center. So I learned through experience how then to not just play all at one dynamic, but to treat things differently. And then be able to say, okay, I came into one session and Bruce Swedien goes, I go, where are all my drums? And he goes, Quincy doesn't want any toms on his record. All I had was a kick, snare, and a hat. I go, okay, I don't care, so, you adjust to what we want. But yes, when I get behind that glass, listen, let's blame it on COVID, because we're all sitting at home alone and learning stuff. And, I've been learning stuff since I had a Porta studio in 1980. So, and thank God we threw the ADATs away. Okay.
Myles and I didn't show up until the second day because we knew it was just going to be a whole day of crack, 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 crack. Take it up to 2 dB, crack. Down on the 4K, crack. I've been through this rodeo before.
That's hilarious. Well, I wonder, JR, just to come back to your, the balancing of your instruments. There's one song that always comes to mind that you played on for me that just completely blows my mind, and it's "Game of Love" by Daft Punk.
Whoa!
Ooh. Which was Mick Jasnowski, I think.
Mick Jasnowski was God, digitally and analog wise, simultaneously on that record, recorded at Conway C.
Right, and would that be kind of an example of what you're talking about? Like your kick drum, you're not playing it very hard, and I think you're playing with hot rods, is what it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, on Game of Love. I was playing that, and actually that was one of the only tracks I played top to bottom. The other stuff I'm playing by myself on that. It's pretty bizarre. And all the Daft Punk people that are controlling them, I need writers. Never mind. So okay. It wasn't that totally separated, but it was definitely it was controlled. I'll give you the opposite of that. Again, I bring up the Streisand Orchestra. People may not like Barbra Streisand as an artist, but she's still the last one standing, and she is an incredible singer. And we were when we first started getting the huge band together, they did not want me to play, that soft, right? They wanted me to play like a rock drummer, like I am. and I go, oh, okay. And they just dealt with it because we were playing stadiums. So it was like, okay, I didn't have to think about adjusting for that. So there's two coins here.
Got it. So here, I might put you guys on the spot. I wonder if you guys could play a little bit of a demonstration, play 16 bars with that kind of balance that you're talking about, where you're really quiet on the bass drum, not so forte on the snare drum, and we'll have a listen to how you guys kind of play like that.
Song,
Yeah. Alta Vista.
And then take it to that kind of like louder level, and we'll see how you guys kind of react to that and how things sound.
Let me know when you're ready. We're going to play one of Mitch's songs called
Alta Vista.
Alta Vista. Ready?
Hold on. Nope.
Ah,
All right.
3. Semi-example.
Yes, love it. That's great. How did it sound to everybody in the chat? Put anything in there, clapping sounds, whatever you want. Yeah. So that was fantastic. Related question that you guys kind of touched on. What do you listen to in your ears when you're in the studio? Each of you. Yeah.
If it's a really, really loud guitar player, I will bump his butt way down because certain frequencies get in the way of me. I've had a propensity to get to the studio an hour earlier, pay the engineer $20 and say, I need my own cue, assuming we don't have this. So I listen to a lot of kick, a lot of snare, a medium amount of hi-hat. Toms are lower, cymbals are in the blend of what the kit is, and I generally have a plate with no pre-delay at about 1.6 length. That's something that's bright, so I can hear. Now, I don't know what we're using, but we're something similar to that. And not everybody has to hear it. So I get a bit spoiled, and then when the guys all start playing with me, I want to make sure that nobody's at my same level, because then I'll have to play harder. So if I start playing harder, it then starts choking the sound, and it affects the entire band.
Interesting. And just a related question for you. You're a Porter and Davies artist.
I am. I've been.
Yes.
I think the original one, because I think we invented that in the 1800s.
Somebody's asking you about what the advantages are to playing with a butt kicker.
Right. In the old days, tactile speakers out of Denver, Colorado used to make, and they still do, I think. Anybody been in a swimming pool and swam and heard water, or heard music under the water? Those are made by tactile, and there's speakers in the water that you just go to, you can hear stuff when you're swimming. Somebody got an idea to put that on a connection to a drum throne. But the distance from where your butt sits and where that was 6, 8, 10 inches. So there was a delay. And what you have, the point of that is you take the bass drum and you take a line of a microphone and or coming from the aux send of the bass drum mic from the console into this amp. And every time you hit the kick drum, you feel this low 60 cycle, 80 cycle beat. Well, what Porter and Davies did out of London is they put it inside the actual seat cushion, and it's a transducer. It's like a subwoofer built into your butt. So you can either run it from a mic direct send or you can do line level. And so every time, I guess the older I got, the more in studios I wasn't getting enough of the low thump directly when I played the bass drum. So what it gave me was a whole nother tool in my tool belt. And like we're on the cruise with our band, and we're headlining. I go, okay, I've got my own butt kicker. Pretty soon we go, oh shoot, Michael McDonald's going on at the exact same time as the JR band. He wants the butt kicker. I go, don't you have another one? And they go, no. I go, well, I'm sorry, Michael, but I need it. He was using it to have his drummer send it to hit, and Michael sat on it while he felt the bass drum while he played Rhodes. So it's not just for drummers, but it's a beautiful thrill. Let's just put it that way.
Amazing. Yeah, and like live as well. I use one when I'm out on gigs and take a mix of the kick drum, the toms, the snare drum, and bass, and it just tends to help ground you in what's going on, especially using in-ears. Right. Cans are one thing you can.
Right. Yeah. And we don't ever use cans live. It's always got to be. I mean, Myles is using in-ears now, but I'm always using cans in the studio, old ones, old Sonys.
Do you travel with those?
I go on eBay and buy every one of these VR 700s I could find. So if anybody wants to sell me some VR 700s that aren't messed up, man, I'll take them off your hands.
There you
go. It's part of an image thing for Myles too. He's got that great hair, and he doesn't want this, this thing that happens on top of the head.
They sound like garbage, but I.
You cannot mess with the dude.
The dude.
The dude.
Well, I mainly just have them because it's to get a bit more isolation. Being right next to JR's playing, and just to hear everything a little bit clearer.
And what do you have in your ears?
I was looking at it. I pretty much have everything kind of at the same place. My guitar is a little bit louder than other things, but I'm used to playing live and hearing things in the room. Like playing with ears and in the studio with this level of separation can be uncomfortable and foreign. So it takes a little while to settle into what you like and to try and find something that's realistic or that sounds like everybody's playing together in the room. But yeah, I have just about everything, the same spot and with myself a little bit louder.
Awesome. And Mitch, yourself?
I like to have everything, and I actually like to have a little less of me because if I'm too loud in the cans, I play super tentative. But if I'm not loud enough, then I play too much. It's like There's this fine line. And one of the tricks that I use sometimes when I'm in the studio, it's like, they always say pull a can off and you can get a little more or a little, of your sound. But since there's no sound in the room, A100s have their own speaker. And so what I've been doing is I actually have the speaker in the organ on. So I'm getting a little actual live room that if I pull my, like when I'm doing overdubs, if I pull my can off just a little bit, I can feel that. I can feel a little more direct sound right in the room, Otherwise, everything's stuck in the cans. But as far as everything else, I like to have a lot of bass. And so like we just did that little trio tune. We're not set up, like if we were going to do organ trio, I just spent a lot more time getting a different Leslie sound, because when I was playing those bass parts, I couldn't really hear them like I'm used to hearing them, especially when the Leslie with a 15 facing the floor is right behind me. So it's a real different miking and mixing technique for like an organ record. So when we did that trio thing, I was like, all right, well, it'll be what it is, because, you know, I really can't hear what I'm doing with my left hand.
Trust
like
me,
I
that girl
normally
in
would.
Dayton doesn't know.
We talk about the girl in Dayton, which
Man,
means
there's a
the
girl in
general
Dayton,
public.
trust me.
You know, the general public, they don't know. They don't, you know, they won't hear that you're that, you know. But my counter argument is, but I know. I'll hear it, and it affects how I play. So I don't care what the girl in Dayton thinks.
Aha. You will. Okay.
Well, anecdotally, it sounded great. It, you know, obviously, yes, as a musician, you notice that the bass is missing, which on that note, you play bass with your feet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Feet and left hand.
Feet and left
common
hand.
misconception is that jazz organ is all foot bass. No, it's not. It's mostly left hand and some foot. Gospel guys place most of the bass with their feet, and they're doing, you know, multiple voicings. Well, here, but jazz organ, Jimmy Smith, the myth was that he did it all with his feet. No, it's you're doing that and tapping, and you can lay it in sometimes.
Uh-oh. You got to play.
You know, so that's what's happening there. It's a lot of left hand when there's no bass player.
Incredible. It's there's another organ trio that I really love, Blickerhammer Gadd. You know, Steve Gadd's.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yep.
I've heard.
Man, yeah.
Now he plays mostly foot.
I think so, right?
He's because you can tell, because he's comping with his left hand. But the problem with that style, and they're great, but you're not doing those tempos like that. You know,
right?
That's got to be here.
Yep.
We can start tap dancing lessons.
Yeah, it kind of is like tap dancing with one foot. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, the Hammond organ is an amazing instrument. It's really fun to really have to get all that stuff happening.
Incredible. We had just a question. Somebody, Mick Jim, is asking if you finished the new record, the new JR record.
I know Mick Jim very well. We are, in addition to these, we're about to play a second song here. Mm-hmm. That first song was written by Myles, called "Stay Charged," and the next song will be called "Cutlass Supreme." When we first got here, I had an agenda. And within that agenda it was a complete variety of stuff. So, like I said, it's the Dave Grusin track, and then we got into some of my a funk song that the great Bo Cooper and I wrote called "Dogleg Left," and we did play it on the ship, but that's going to go on the record. My plan, this next song we're going to do is really funky that Mitch wrote called "Cutlass Supreme." He's got some sort of affliction was that the word? Addiction, love,
affection.
All right, that could be too. For an old Cutlass Supreme, as I have an affection for my Dodge Charger, my '66. So we've got a song, but my plan is to have the tower horns on that song, on probably at least 4 songs. So we're not finished. We have some amazing surprises with unbelievable lead singers. So we're making this complete record. I don't know when this record will be done, but I'm praying by the end of the year.
Isn't that something, you know, when it takes you that long to finish a project, do you get tired of that project and start working on another one, and it just kind of...
Because, you know, when I get back home, I mean, I'm going right back into Jude Cole's record. So I've been brought back Jude Cole, you know, and it's ridiculous. So, but no, it's a good escape for me. And then, you know, I fly to Latvia in 3 weeks to do a gig for the U.S. Embassy. So it's certain things to, you know, and hopefully the Spurs can win Game 7. So these are things that I kind of shut down, gardening hot peppers and things like that. And I still got a great drummer at home, Jack, who's now recording and in a couple of bands. So it's a good variety.
Somebody put a chili pepper in the chat.
They know.
Did it Adler? Do you know an Adler?
I knew Lou Adler. I mean, come on, chili pepper. Never mind.
We're going to have you guys play a tune. And then we're going to circle back to, I have some things to ask Jim about, this whole process. So, you guys are going to play a song. It's called Cutlass Supreme. Yeah. Okay, please. Yeah. Inspiration.
And when I was a freshman in high school, there was this really cool senior named Doane Baber. And I looked up to him. I thought he was the coolest guy. And one night after school, he said, "Hey, do you need a ride home?" I was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, wow, a freshman getting a ride home with a senior. And he had this old Cutlass Supreme with the T-tops off. And it was a beautiful spring night. And we're driving home. And he pops in a cassette. And the most amazing sounds I'd ever heard in my life came out of the speakers. And I was like, who is this? And he said, "It's Tower of Power." And the song was Squib Cakes. And to this day, I've been chasing that sound, that Chester Thompson organ sound, ever since that day. And so I wrote a tune that's like a tribute to Tower of Power and Chester Thompson. It's called Cutlass Supreme.
And for everybody at home, you will hear the great Keith Nelson already pre-recorded, but we have no idea what else we're going to hear. So this is a possible restart.
Yeah. So watch if we start waving our hands, stop the playback.
Drumsticks. Three bars, right? 3-bar count off.
Yep.
All right. Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Yeah, amazing, guys. Somebody's asking where the horns are.
Oh, they're in there.
Yeah.
The horns are on Pro Tools, but imagine my Tower Boys on here.
Mm-hmm.
They're placeholders.
Is that the tower section?
No.
Okay, but it will.
It's me programming.
Oh, programming is great, but it will be the tower horns.
It will be.
Yikes! That's gonna be awesome.
Hence, the people that are tuned in, we're making a record. We're not doing a live, even though this is a live performance. This is really about making a record, coming here to the Bakehouse. So everybody understands that. So how do you do that? You just come in and put up a file with nothing on it and play. Well, sometimes we do. But, in this case, we are sweetening a record that's in process.
Awesome.
When I see a tech coming in, there's...
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. We're just having a little bit of lav mic issues. So I think Mark's bringing up the room mic. Yeah. We'll kind of sort through that as we're going on.
I think we should be good.
Okay.
Yeah. We're kind of sorting through it. Yeah. Everybody, John, we'll thank everybody at the end and, make sure everybody's recognized. I want to ask Jim, your process back there while you're working with these guys, you've been kind of put in the hot seat this week working with this, a trio like this. What is your you've mentioned your methodology is like, put the mics where they need to be, record everything flat. While you're behind the desk, what's kind of been going through your mind and what are you focusing on?
Mostly how to get these tracks as clean as possible, print them as clean as possible. Mainly, but a lot of, mostly keep the tracks as clean as possible. But I think part of the whole thing here is also getting to understand, the artists and understanding how they work. So sometimes it takes a couple of days to get that process. And, I was a kid with JR towards like the second, third day. I says, okay, now I'm figuring out how you think. So even punch-ins, like where to punch in and will they trust you to punch in at the right place? That's a big part. And, there's a story, but can I tell the story about David?
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, he said he's been in sessions where, I guess this was back in the 2-inch tape era where if somebody missed a punch, he was fired. It's not like Pro Tools. You don't have Command Z, right? And I started the 2-inch, so I totally get that. But the whole thing for me, my whole approach was I just wanted to create an environment for these guys to come in to hear really well on their headphones. So that's really that's utmost for me. Because if they hear well, they don't really think about recording. They're just hearing each other and just playing together. And I think we kind of accomplished that. We've got 24 channels on our live mix system. And there's everything going into it from just JR's kick, snare, which he can bring up himself. Each one of those will have a reverb send. Or overall, like your hi-hat, snare, and overheads have a reverb send. Mitch has a little bit of a reverb on his organ, so he can dial it in and dial it out. Myles has been probably the easiest to work with in this situation.
Oh.
He's just very easygoing, and anyway. But yeah, it's capturing it, printing it, and also I'm being cognizant in who's going to mix this and to make sure that the files are properly labeled and that, it makes sense. We've been doing a lot of comping, on solos and stuff like that. And I think we've actually kind of stretched out a little more than you would normally, because I think the guys felt like there was latitude to do that. And we had the ability to just get that right take, But overall, from this side of the desk, it's just been a pretty neat, just really fun. It's been fun for me. I hope it's been fun for the guys. Like I said, we just here at Bakehouse, we just want to create an environment of love, of passion, of just loving what we do and just pulling it out of each other, right? And just collaborative and yeah, there we go. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Brendan. You and I have had these talks. You know, to me, it's just gear, right? It's the people that matter to me, and I think we've had a lot of fun, and I know we've got some good tracks now.
Everything we've done, even from the very first thing, which was, I'm kind of like, I'm a bit avant-garde in some theories, and Dave Grusin Connect. You never know what we did, and I've heard it is ridiculous. So
and the pop stuff, the stuff we cut yesterday, written by these two gentlemen, is life changing. So we're going to sell millions of records.
What was really neat, I don't think people really know how musical JR is as far as a musician and just really understanding. I love sitting next to him, and he's calling out the charts, calling out the chords. They say, hit the flat nine, hit the root, hit the tonic. That's neat. You don't really see that with the drummer. Normally they do their part and they disappear, but not JR.
Well, that's because I was
beat up at a Protestant church when I was a little boy. And I'm kidding, but I had a great dad, and who was he was a doctor. He was just a great musician, Jack, and he beat me up hard at age 5 playing piano. When did you start playing piano, by the way?
Like when I was 6.
Yeah, I started at 5, and I felt mathematically I was inept. I was not ready, man. Even though I everything was cool, and then the drum bolt hit me at 7. So thank God that happened. And when did you start playing?
Well, I played violin when I was that age.
Yeah.
6, 7.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a violin?
Please say no.
Wait, we're going to have to add this to the show.
Yeah, we've got some time for this, right?
Yeah, we own a violin and run it through the Lost Lake.
We get about 20 tracks of that.
Yeah, right.
Hey, you guys, this may be some, you guys don't care if I shoot the crap. I've always had a fascination with bagpipes. Nobody loves them. It is of my heritage. I would love to have the Hans Zimmer approach with 4 bagpipe players running through about 50 Marshalls, and then layering that as like behind something that you've done. But
tune into the next Sessionwire when J.R. Robinson will be showing you his new project.
My love for the British Isles.
Yeah. I'm not sure that Sessionwire could handle the SPL. Oh my God, bagpipes loud.
J.R. Robinson and Tyler Banks
over Miles's stuff. Anyway, that's how I think.
Just while we're at an inflection point here, if anybody has any more questions that they want to ask of anybody here, please put them in the chat. We're coming up at the top of the hour, and we'll be winding up here shortly. This whole experience of setting up Live at Bakehouse has been incredible. JR has been involved in other Sessionwire events as well. So thank you, JR, again, for being a guinea pig for everything that we do.
That guy.
It's awesome. And you can go and check out that previous thing on YouTube as well. Just look up J.R. Robinson Sessionwire, and it shows up as a live video we did with our distributor Ilio, a live tracking session from JR's home studio, and it was
with Moses.
With Moses, yeah, incredible songwriter, singer, musician. Really fun. I'm gonna just circle back and see if I'm missing any questions here. Somebody asked which in-ears I'm using. And I feel like I should plug this. So these are Plunge Audio in-ears from up here in Canada. Dear friends of mine run the company, and they're fantastic. Go check them out. We had the video controller question that we addressed. We had some questions about getting audio into each tail too. We're not getting audio into each camera. What you're hearing is a mix coming out of the control room into Sessionwire directly. So can't really answer that question because we're not doing that. NDI wired. This is a question for John, maybe. Are all the cameras in 1080 NDI or 4K? Because the bandwidth must be mind-blowing. Maybe Jim, you can answer this too. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's 1080 right now for what we got. If we do ISOs on the cameras, we'll run it to 4K, and we'll use that for cutting, stuff later on Premiere.
Yeah, and the whole process of this last week has kind of been documented through the days as well. So I would expect that you'll be seeing clips of that. There's already a clip from the other day of you guys actually tracking that was recorded with all the OBSBOT cameras. It sounded incredible. So I can't wait for this record to come out. Once again, everybody, thanks for joining. If you have a question, this is your time to do it. We've got a few minutes and we'll be wrapping up.
While you're looking at questions, I think Jim and his team have put this concept together for other projects, for other bands, for string sections, for something that you want to document and get it right. So I believe, Jim, if I must say, the world is open. You're open to anything, correct?
Anything,
wow,
but
hey.
That's kind of we've had here. So yeah, and there's been this whole thing about oysters. I can't figure out what else.
Miles and I, man, we work for oysters.
Oh man!
Beach, so there are all kinds of oysters here. So.
Oh boy!
Yeah,
Cassie's back there pulling her hair out. How are we gonna get?
Ryan.
Oh yeah, by the way, I have to introduce Cassie, who's been been the one heading up all the social media marketing and technically the producer with Brendan. So
yep.
And then my lovely co-owner wife Denise right here. So.
Right.
So it is a family affair because Kathy's my daughter. And I have to mention this guy right here, which I know the guys know that this thing would have been a bust without Will Rodriguez. Will, come in this way. Will is the guy who knows everything about Pro Tools that I don't want to know. And he bids it. More than once, GR would say, can you bring him back in? Where's Will?
I think you're going to write a song about Where's Will.
That would be great.
That'd be amazing. We'll mention a few more people at this point too. There's a few more people to thank. Steve Bowen, I believe Steve's in the back there. Hi, Steve. Yeah. The note here says impossible without Steve's help. So Steve seems to be the glue keeping everything together.
I mean,
made it happen.
All the lines.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So call Steve if you need cat lines run through your studio.
He's gonna walk out here.
Yeah, he's shaking his head. Dale Fratian, I believe that's how you pronounce Dale's last name, Fratian. Yeah, JR's drum tech. Steve Wynn, who's also another Steve. There's two Steves. They were both working on helping the studio get set up. Cassie, obviously project manager, producer. We've been working really closely pulling this thing together. John Carolino, go to the B room, guys. There, the guys in the B room. Yeah, there's John in the back. There's Dusty. And there's Mark, John Carolino, Dusty Booth, and Mark Skipper in the B room. And I believe Jay Foster is kicking around. He's been shooting photos and content. So it's quite the crew we have working on this. It's been an absolute thrill pulling this together. We had friends from all of our partners pop in, I believe. So once again, thank you again to Istanbul Mehmet Cymbals, Innovative Percussion, Slingerland Drums, SSL, Solid State Logic, Lawton Audio for the microphones, and our co-presenting partner, OBSBOT, for helping us pull all of this together, the inaugural pilot episode of Live at Bakehouse Studios. Guys in the band, JR, Mitch, Miles, thank you so much for your time.
Brian, it's a great working with me, you, and we're family, so thank you. And I'm going to thank Steve Sachs personally for
introducing you to me.
Yes, yeah, Steve. That's a great reminder. I need to touch base with Steve.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful person. Jim, last but certainly not least, thank you for everything you've done. brainchild. This is your brainchild. And I think it turned out wonderfully, and I can't wait to hear this record and can't wait for the next episode to be decided. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for dropping in. This is where this portion ends. And everybody, you know, Cassie, I'll shoot you a text in a minute. We can kind of connect afterwards. But for now, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Stay tuned for more Live at Bakehouse Studios coming soon. Cheers, everyone.